Federalism, APGov, Chapter 3. A lot of current issues are dealing with federalism, gun rights and gun control, the legalization of marijuana in some states, DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, and should gays and lesbians be able to marry, and how do those relate to current laws in each of those states. A couple of years back, when the natural disaster Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, local, state, and government agencies were sent in to deal with this crisis. And there was a lot of controversy on who really was in charge of dealing with this disaster. Now, federalism is defined as a division of powers on a territorial basis between a strong central government and many state and local governments. This system is very unique to the United States. Only 11 other countries have a federal system currently. And it differs with the other two types of governments. A confederation is just a loose organization of states, which we had during the Articles, and then a unitary system, like what China has, which is a centralized government. The framers of the Constitution carefully carved up this division of powers. The national government has enumerated powers, which are listed in the Constitution. Also have implied powers, which are reasonably suggested by those words in the Constitution. The states have reserved powers, which are powers that aren't mentioned in the Constitution and not denied to the states at the same time. And then shared powers are called concurrent powers between the federal government and the states. Ah, yes. The 10th Amendment to the Constitution, reserving powers to the states. We got the power to run elections, to license professional workers. Marriage is up to the states. Texas thinks this is one of the strongest amendments, but what I told you, it's really one of the weakest. It can always be overruled. Now, speaking of marriage licenses, we get to full faith and credit. Full faith and credit says that states must honor the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of each state. That's marriage licenses, divorces, birth certificates, death certificates. One thing that's come into question with this, though, is how do states recognize gay marriage? Another clause in the Constitution is the Privileges and Immunities Clause, which allows states to make reasonable distinctions between their residents and residents from another state. One thing that's included in that is out-of-state tuition is always higher, so it'd cost you a little bit more if you're coming from Kansas to be an Orange Pride member at Oklahoma State. Another interstate relation clause in the Constitution is the extradition clause, which allows for fugitives from crimes in one state to be returned to the state where they committed that crime so they can be held for trial. Well, at this time I want to thank my students for bringing in the cake to class. Now hopefully you guys understand why you brought this cake in. The first cake is the layered cake federalism, which relates to dual federalism, where each level of government is sovereign in its own area. And then you got the marble cake federalism, which is cooperative. And this really started with the New Deal and FDR, with the big government involvement in the states and putting programs there and funding these programs. Fiscal federalism is the term that describes how this aid from the federal government gets to the states. And there are two types of aid. We've got categorical grants and block grants. Categorical grants are grants provided that are for a specific, closely defined purpose. Oftentimes, the states will have to provide a matching grant or provide an agency to administer the grant. And they can come in the form of project or formula. And then the broad type of grants are block grants, which Reagan used these to his advantage during the 80s. when he proposed that to cut government spending by 25%, we'll just send this broad money to the states and let them use it how they see fit. Well, there you have it. Federalism, APGov, Chapter 3. A little bit of flip class coming at you. Hope you enjoyed. Later.